I'm pulled over in a parking lot right now. I'm out running errands, trying to run errands, and I'm so overwhelmed with my emotions and my thoughts that have been bubbling up in me for a long time. It's been almost a year since I made a video that was intended to be shared with the public, the masses. I have been through incredible trauma since that last video, trauma that I have not been public about at all, trauma that has damn near killed me, and I'm going to be making more videos and sharing about that and writing about it in my book. It's all very important for this overall story. That the reach of these drugs, how far they reach out into our lives, how much they destroy, because it is such a chronic marathon of disease, spanning years and decades for people. And when you are polluted for that long, your life is going to be affected. And when you don't have family like me, and your poverty level, the foundations are going to crack, and you're going to start to fall through the cracks, which is what has happened to me. I am 2 weeks off of phenobarbital. Almost 9 years on GABAergic drugs. In September of 2009, I was prescribed Ambien. That's when this nightmare started. For insomnia. I hadn't slept in 8 days. I was extremely sick, and my ex-husband was concerned, and so I was put on Ambien, and then that was followed by Klonopin, and then that was followed by Restoril and Valium, and then phenobarbital. After a 2.5-year taper off of benzos, I was then put on phenobarbital, which I've now been working my ass to come off of for 3.5 years, and I'm now off. And it's haunting. It's really incredible, the various brain regions that these drugs suppress, because the memories that I'm having, the thoughts that are coming up for me in the last 2 weeks are very similar to what happened to me when I came off of Valium in September 2014. I had a 1-month gap of being GABA drug free, September 2014. And then in October 2014, I was put on phenobarbital. So my brain had a 30-day break off of that GABA suppression and all the various regions of the brain that are suppressed. If doctors and patients and just, people in general think that benzos and GABAergic drugs only affect one area of the brain, i.e. one area of your life, whether it's sleep or anxiety, you're completely wrong. You're completely bleeping wrong. The science is there, the articles are there, the clinical data is there, the anecdotal data is there, the stories that are coming up, the experiences. I'm here to share my experience and how it's relative to the science. The memories and thoughts that I'm having right now are pre-GABA drug in their strength, in their clarity, in the subject matter. I am thinking about friends who I haven't been in touch with or close with since before I was put on GABA drugs. My emotions are very tender and retro. I cannot be in the present. I cannot be 42 years old in 2018 easily, because my mind, my psyche, and my emotions are still back in 2009, because I've been drugged. I've been in a coma. The brain doesn't retain memories. There are plentiful research articles on retrograde amnesia and benzodiazepines. They are, alcohol causes retrograde amnesia, so do benzos. It's the same freaking drug. Blackouts that happen on alcohol. I mean, we're talking about a whole decade of blackout for me in some way. Not completely, not to where, I don't remember what I did the day before, but all the areas of the brain are not online. They are being sedated. Just because you sedate one area of the brain that helps you sleep or that reduces anxiety doesn't mean it's selectively the only region that's being sedated. Memory centers are being sedated. Emotional centers are being sedated. Risk centers are being sedated. The anterior insula is being sedated, and the anterior insula controls inhibition. So your behavior is not fully your behavior. Your thoughts are not fully your thoughts. And it's extremely painful. Because I am on camera right now, I am not showing you the full breadth of my pain. And you could never know the full breadth of my pain. And I really struggle with that, because it's fiery and deep and vast and deadly. What I have lost. When I came off of Valium in September 2014, 10 days after I discontinued, it took 10 days, but that's when these emotions came flooding back into my body. This time, 3.5 years later, I'm educated. I know how these drugs work. I understand their sinister mechanisms of action, and I'm more prepared and able to cope with the emotions that I have right now. They're still excruciating. They're still unbearable and shouldn't be happening and totally unnatural and twisted. But I can frame them, and I know what's happening in my brain. I know that I am almost, 9 straight years on GABAergic sedation, taken every single day. Every day, every 24 hours, with long half-lives on these drugs. Klonopin, Valium, phenobarbital, they have long half-lives. So if you're taking that drug every day, every 24 hours, you have a constant, potency in your bloodstream. You have constant high serum levels. You are never detoxing. You are never coming down off of that sedation. Your brain has a constant, I call it the brain helmet. It's a constant suppression because the drugs are constantly in your system. That is the grave mistake that's being made with these drugs. One of the many grave mistakes. So 3.5 years ago, when I discontinued Valium, I woke back up into my emotions, and it was horrific. It was horrific. And I know that not everybody is drugged as much as I was drugged on such high doses. And I know that not everybody gets numbed out and makes as stupid as mistakes that I made. But I don't know one single person coming off of benzo, no matter what benzo, that doesn't have regrets. That wasn't themselves on the drug, that behaved in really kind of foolish, outlandish, bizarre ways. Everybody has their version of that story. My version is very, very painful and more extreme. I mean, the most extreme is that you kill someone. And there's no shortage of those stories. And I'm grateful that that didn't happen to me. And I feel tremendously for the people who were so out of body on these drugs, who were so manipulated by these drugs that they, committed the ultimate act. Killing themselves, or killing another human being. I mean, I can imagine that pain. I can. And it's kind of the only blessing in my story is that that didn't happen to me. But I committed the next, what I see as a crime and a sin, and that's that I hurt someone who I love very much, and I was very selfish, and I didn't know I was being selfish. That's how sinister these drugs are, because I am I'm a very empathic person, and I'm very conscious about how I'm affecting other people, and I'm absolutely miserable if I hurt someone. If I hurt an ant, I'm miserable, and so to have hurt someone, and not just one person, but I mean, I was completely zombified on 4 milligrams of Klonopin and 25 milligrams of Ambien, which is what I was on together. It's a lot of drugs. I didn't know that then. I didn't think that something that I was taking at night to help me sleep was then polluting my brain and affecting my decisions the next day. I didn't even think for a second from, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. that I was affected in any way by my sleep medication. I only learned when I came off. And so think about that. Think about how fucked up our world is. Think about all the unbelievable behavior, you can't even explain it. Unexplainable behavior that's happening in our world. Stories left and right. Doesn't it seem apocalyptic in a way? Doesn't it seem unbearable? Well, you better believe these drugs are involved, because they are affecting people's brains, which affects their minds, which affects their actions. We are turning off brain centers that we need to be human. We're shutting down brain centers. Or overexciting brain centers, when you come off these drugs, that they were not meant to be disrupted in this way. We are messing with very delicate, sophisticated brain chemistry, and I'm living proof. I'm here to tell you that these drugs absolutely destroyed my life, and I never abused them, and I never got high from them, and I never enjoyed them. It has nothing to do with that. And so this is a new American story, isn't it? Drugs destroying people's lives, affecting their behavior, completely robbing them, ostracizing them from family and friends, rendering them severely brain injured for years. And it has nothing to do with abusing the drugs. It has nothing to do with the person's fault. We are talking about a sinister nature that is not being focused on. It's not being focused on in the media. It's not being focused on in the doctor's offices, and the pharmaceutical companies sure as bleep are not going to be focusing on it. You have to dig. They know about it, but they're not going to be focusing on it. And the FDA gives them a pass and allows them to put their drugs to market without divulging everything that they're learning in clinical trials. And don't think that the clinical trial is the one-stop shop for drug data. I mean, we are the clinical trial, because they didn't have a clinical trial testing the effects of 4 milligrams of Klonopin and 25 milligrams of Ambien for the length of time with my genetics and the way that I methylate these drugs. They didn't have a clinical trial for that. I'm the clinical trial for that. I'm the clinical trial for a chronic Lyme patient, also living in mold, riddled with heavy metals, extremely sick, back-to-back surgeries, on these drugs, with my detox pathways all mucked up. I had such high levels of these drugs in my body. That's not safe. and it wasn't tested. And now they're advising doctors to prescribe women no more than 5 milligrams of Ambien. I was on 25 CR. So yeah, you know, people say to me, including my new therapist, can you forgive yourself? And it's a really tough one because it wasn't me. It's surreal. It's like the years I was on the drugs is just like a dream, like it wasn't fully connected. I want to forgive myself. I know other benzo sufferers, you know, whose behavior was just jacked up on these drugs, and they don't take any responsibility for it. They see it completely as the drugs. And, you know, I have searched in myself for my role, my authentic, organic role in my behavior when I was on these drugs. And I own it. I own what was broken in me, organically. But I cannot own how these drugs numbed me out and disconnected me from my heart and disconnected me from my inhibition. And so when you come off these drugs and you re-enter the world, so much is coming back online. I mean, I can feel my memories coming up from my brain centers, you know, like, and they have a different quality. My dreams have a different quality. Of course I'm crying. Of course I'm feeling, because I've been anesthetized. Not that I haven't been crying, kind of nonstop for 3.5 years, but, now's another layer sloughing off. I mean, it's the end of an era. It's the end of my GABA era. I will never again be anesthetized and numbed out and drugged by GABA-ergic chemical drugs, unless I'm held prisoner somewhere or, you know, admitted against my will somewhere and forcibly drugged. I will never have these drugs in my body ever again. And after I'm done with this last taper, this last 7.94 milligrams of Elavil, I'll never have another Pharma in my body, other than my natural desiccated thyroid medication that I'm going to be tapering off of last. I mean, what a crime. What a great, great, great loss. This is almost a decade of my life. And so not only have I lost all this time to move my life forward, I've lost all these people. You know, and I'm a relationship person. I care a lot about my friends, especially when you don't have family. When you don't have anyone. Your friends are very, very important. You know, I pay attention to people, and I look at, I really learn who they are and know who they are, and I value my friendships with people. And this has robbed me of my friendships. And how are my friends going to understand? Yeah, I've been gone for, 6 years, six years and counting. I've been in a drugged hole. Or even, in the more recent years. And I was brain dead, and I couldn't even send you an email. I couldn't even respond to your Facebook message. I couldn't call you because I had nothing to give. I was completely just bankrupt and just fighting for myself, fighting for survival or how do you explain your overly emotional, impulsive behavior? How do you restore who you are, who you truly are, when people don't even know that this is happening? They don't realize the power and how under the influence of the drug people are. And what does that mean, to be under the influence? It means that you're powerless over it. It means that you are literally overpowered and controlled by the chemical. That's it. It's not just your loved one anymore. It's not just your friend. It's remember that commercial, this is your brain on drugs? This is your friend on drugs. This is your loved one. This is your wife. This is your husband. I mean, nobody warned my ex-husband when I was put on Klonopin, for example, that strange and unusual behavior is something to look out for. Yet it's right on the CDC's website, FDA's website. If you go to the FDA's information on Klonopin, you will see that it warns family members to watch out for strange and unusual behavior in their loved ones. Imagine if the doctor had warned us. She's on a very high dose and she's been on this for a while now. That could explain her strange behavior. And it will, it's not like you're stumbling drunk and you reek of alcohol and all these kind of classic signs of somebody being under the influence of drugs. That's what we're trained to be, to notice. We're trained to kind of notice the effect of street drugs, right? Like the obvious addiction that's developing or dependency that's developing, or, the person falling apart. But we're not being educated about these kind of gradual, more gray personality shifts and behavior shifts that are happening on long-term psychotropic pharmaceuticals. And that is the most sinister, because you're not going to notice it, yet it's happening behind the scenes and it's escalating. I mean, there are support groups on Facebook for marriages destroyed by psychotropic pharmaceuticals. Now, at least people have a place to go, and they can potentially save their marriage and prevent it from fracturing by learning more about what's happening to their loved one on these drugs. I didn't know any groups like that. I didn't even know that I had a problem. I didn't know that my behavior was wrong or not mine. That is the most sinister part. The drug itself pulls the wool over your eyes from recognizing its effect on you. It's like a Trojan horse. Like it's perfect in a way. I mean, it's genius for mind control. It's called spellbinding. The drug itself is inhibiting your ability to recognize the effects of the drug, especially on your personality. So I have a lot to say. I have a lot I want to share about. I have a whole notebook full of ideas for videos and articles and things. And I just pray that I'm able to, stabilize and come out of this hole that I'm in, coming off of pheno and having to move again. I've had to move. Oh, if you only knew. But the simple version is I've had to move 3 times in the last year and a half. I was homeless for a spell in there too, and stayed 7 or 8 different places in a number of weeks. And so I've really moved even more. But, like big moves 3 times now. And when you're tapering these drugs and you have chronic Lyme that you're working hard to keep at bay, and you're as poor as I am, struggling to survive on, I don't think people really stop to think about the added financial disease layer that people like me are dealing with, but I'm forced to live on a very, very small amount of SSDI, and it prevents me from getting the medicine that I need, the supplements, prevents me from taking care of myself fully, and it's really taken its toll. And coming off of pheno, while my immune system was really being challenged already by the stress of the move, it's really crashed my immune system. And I have a lot of symptoms, again, that I had years ago when I was in acute benzodiazepine withdrawal. And it's fucking hard. I mean, people taper one benzo, go through one benzo withdrawal, and it's the worst experience of their lives. And I've tapered 3 now GABAergic drugs, and I've been through 3 acute GABA withdrawals, and now I have symptoms rearing their ugly heads like interstitial cystitis and electro crawly bug sensations in my brain, and and of course, anxiety and emotional dysregulation and adrenal crisis. You know, my adrenals are tanked right now. I mean, I could go on, the stomach burning and all the stuff that I'm dealing with that people would never, they just could never even imagine that somebody as composed as myself has all this going on. The back pain alone, the lack of sleep alone. One symptom that a benzo warrior is walking around with is a symptom that would take another person right to the emergency room and would land them on a bunch of drugs. And benzo warriors are walking around with this litany of symptoms all the time. And so you should respect somebody who is dealing with benzo injury. They should be highly regarded for what they are enduring on a daily basis. The grace that it takes to have that many symptoms and to still do the business of life day after day and to still have a positive attitude and to continue to taper or continue to tough out your cold turkey or whatever, you know, path you are on in the pharma injury recovery process. You are to be respected and revered, and I respect you. I know how strong you are. I know what this takes. And don't let your family or your friends who don't believe you take any of that away from you. Okay? Because we are just so incredibly strong. I'm praying that this acute phase simmers down. I tapered pheno very responsibly. I brought it all the way down to as low as I could possibly get it with my measurement system, to the equivalent of 0.11 milligrams of Valium. And I have to be patient. We have to be patient. It's hard to be patient when you've been tapering over 6 years. And you're drowning financially and you want to work and be able to provide for yourself and get your life back together but this is it. The only way out is through. The only way off these drugs is through the fire of symptoms and suffering. That's it. So I just wanted to say something about phenobarbital. I plan on doing a video just on pheno. I'm going to do another video just on Elavil, and we're going to really look at mechanism of action and the symptoms that the drug itself causes, and then the symptoms in tapering the drug, because people have come to me over and over asking me about the safety of phenobarbital because they're in acute benzo withdrawal and their doctor wants to put them on it. And I have said to people, I got to get back to you in a couple years because I can't report fairly until I've fully experienced this drug. And so I want to give back to the community. I didn't have one single person to consult with for my phenobarbital taper. I scoured the internet, Benzo Buddies, YouTube. I looked everywhere. The only references I could find were parents of children who are tapering them, children who have epilepsy or put on phenobarbital for seizures or whatever, and they were tapering their children. And so I couldn't directly interview the child, but they would taper their child very, very slowly off phenobarb. I mean, I know one mom was tapering her daughter for 4 years off of it, just to, show you the gravity of the situation. I did long periods of holding while I was tapering other drugs, but, I've been trying to come off of 60 milligrams of phenobarbital for 3.5 years. And I'm now off, and I want to celebrate. I thought I was going to be dancing in the rain and I don't know, kissing the ground and weeping with joy. But I'm not. I'm weeping at my life that has been lost, that has been sucked into a drugged vortex, and how alone I am, and how misunderstood this is, and how I could say, to my mom or a family member, oh, I just finished my phenobarbital taper, and they have no idea what that means, and how many symptoms I've pushed through, and how harrowing it's been, and how I've almost died countless times, how toxic this drug is. Oh, it's a nasty, nasty drug. I mean, now I understand why it's called a dirty drug and why benzos were, set to replace barbiturates, because it really is a filthy drug. I mean, it shouldn't even, I don't even think it should be used. I feel bad for the dogs that are being put on it in vets' offices. So I will be doing a video on pheno, but I kind of wanted to just touch base with you guys and talk about the end of my GABA-ergic drug era. I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe remind me. I don't know. When you're polydrugged and you have another drug to go, it's kind of hard to celebrate, you know? And when you're so symptomatic and you're in pain and you're exhausted and your life is, you're hanging on for dear life, it's kind of hard to celebrate. But I did it though. And I did it safely. And all I want to do is help other people and bring awareness and stop this atrocity. So, yeah. Till my next video. Love you guys.